Falaflahiatu, good evening. This is BCN's news bulletin for tonight. Government has plans to introduce new taxes next year that will primarily target visitors and tourists. In 2009, government introduced a new consumption tax that did take locals some time to get used to, but has generated positive returns and put extra money into government's coffers. Premier Talangi believes that these new taxes are necessary to continue with national developments.
Some of them are green taxes. They're basically aimed at visitors to the island to try to help them pay for the infrastructure that we have here, pay for the facilities that we provide here as well. It's always been in the pipeline. It's just that we haven't had a chance to do them as we have. We also need to increase our departure taxes and so on. So, as I said, it's basically aimed at the visitors to help them make a contribution to what they're using while they're here. We're projecting at the present moment, perhaps initially not very much, perhaps $100,000, but over the years, we're expecting to maybe get up to $3 or $4 million per year, maybe a bit more than that. If you have a look at what's happened with NCT, we started with nothing. We're now earning just on $4 million from that. And most of that, the bulk of that, is simply because of the number of tourists that are here. If you have a look at, say, the breakdown in the population in terms of what we have, 1,500 people versus, say, 6,000 or 7,000 or 8,000 tourists that come, you can see the impact of what NCT has done with respect to the amount of money that we have received. So that's a good example of what we can potentially earn. But with these other taxes, we're hoping to get more from the visitors who are coming to visit anyway.
Premier Talangi also said that these taxes are likely to come into Premier Talangi says that these taxes will become effective in April of next year. Also, with the projected increase in tourist numbers expected and people on the island, Premier Talangi noted that waste management becomes another issue. This was discussed during discussions with Australian government officials, and a request was put forward to source funds for the development of a waste management processing facility.
We're looking at a facility that will process our waste in whatever form and consolidate it so that we can minimize the use of landfills that we're using at the present moment and reduce the flies and vermin that we have. And also allow us to recycle some of the rubbish that is there at the present moment. So we're talking to the Australians. They're looking at providing the funds. We have asked them to allocate the $2 million that they were to give us this year for that purpose, and they have agreed, subject to us finalising project proposals and so on. We understand, and we have seen copies of a feasibility study that was done some time ago, 2010 I think, with the environment, and we're working to use that document to update it and then use that to determine what sort of facilities, how big, what capacity and so on we need to build initially and perhaps expand it at a later time, or build it so that in fact we don't have to expand it for the next 50 years or so.
Premier Talangi said the expectation is that work on this waste management processing facility will begin in the middle of next year. La Capa residents have had limited water supply over the past 2 days due to problems with the pump for the village tank. It was a pretty dry weekend with the fire truck making several trips to fill up the village tank while the water supply division worked overtime to resolve the problem. According to Water Supply, there was a fault to electrical settings to the main pump, and yesterday the pump was replaced and water supply should now be back to normal. This latest problem serves as a reminder for the community to be mindful of water usage and to have some backup systems for water storage. Water staff were mobilized over the weekend to resolve a number of water faults and repairs, and this division says that they are pleading with the public to report any water faults or leaks to avoid water wastage, especially during this dry period. A Light for a Life candlelight vigil was held at the Commercial Centre for World AIDS Day in remembrance of the lives affected by HIV and AIDS. HIV continues to be a major global public health concern, claiming more than 36 million lives so far, and as of 2012, approximately 35.5 million people worldwide are living with HIV. In the Pacific, there are over 29,000 living with HIV, but to date, Niue has no reported cases of HIV or AIDS, and organizers reiterated the need to maintain that status. The community gathered for a program organized by the New Health Department, Hymns and Action Songs. The Niue's HIV campaign champion, Dalisi, was given the honor of lighting the main candle, a symbolic gesture of Niue's support in the fight against HIV and AIDS. While Acting Health Minister Billy Talangi reflected on the need to continue in the fight against HIV and AIDS, with this year's theme, Getting to Zero, zero new HIV infections, zero discrimination, zero AIDS-related deaths. Despite the daunting figures of HIV and AIDS infections, organizers announced a positive note that UNAIDS reports through the concerted efforts and campaigns to stop HIV transmission and halt AIDS deaths, there has been a 33% decrease in new HIV infections since 2001. Director of Health Manila Rosa also put out a challenge to youth groups or community groups who would like to host future celebrations. The department was open to any suggestions or proposals. The evening ended with the challenge to continue burning the candle of hope for those directly or indirectly affected by HIV and AIDS. Niue's Lawn Bowls Green is getting another facelift, and this week volunteers and Niskaga officials have been busy trying to complete the project. The Crown land at Funwakula, where the Lawn Bowls Green is now situated, was formerly a tennis court up until 2005 when developments for the new green started. Niue's sporting body Niskaga says that it all began because of Niue's desire to compete in the Commonwealth Games in 2006. In order for that to be possible, the requirement was that the island needed to have the lawn bowls facility to qualify. It has been a work in progress over the years with some delays, according to Niskaga President Des Hipa.
It's taken us a long time for this screen to be ready. So, as you can see, it's starting to shape up like a proper lawn bowl screen now. It's taking a lot of hard work and time and effort put in. Any project like this, it requires a lot of money to enable the project to complete it. Whatever little fund that we have, thanks to the generosity of the Commonwealth Games of India and also Scotland, the fund that they provided for development of the athletes and the facility, that is why we are able to build such something for Niue to be proud of.
Mr. Hipa says that the project has cost about $40,000. Now that the area is near completion, the hope is that there will be a boost in numbers of people interested in taking up the sport either by leisure or competitively. A rather innovative development has seen the conversion of a reefer container into what will become a storage room and office.
We buy this container from New Zealand to store our equipment. So we decided that my friend Willie decided that to make it more attractive, put some design or rock design on it, and put more attractive for those who come into playing and those who are on the road, walking the road. So he came up with the idea that put some windows there, and it looks more like a clubhouse than a storage shed now. And behind it as well, there's a couple of toilets, one for men and one for women. And, we all know that when we use this facility, we need all those necessities to work with. In the time being, we are hoping in the future to create a building here as well. Our dream has always been a dream to create a sports and recreation center in this place here. But take one thing at a time.
Some of the equipment as well as machinery to maintain the lawns was gifted by the Niue Auckland Lawn Bowls Association. The Lawn Bowls Green will be officially opened on Saturday, marking yet another milestone for the sport on the island. Today marked a milestone for the Niue Tolomakio Law Association, marking International Day for Persons with Disabilities at the Commercial Centre. This is the second year Niue has officially celebrated the day, with many of the speeches reflecting on this year's theme to break barriers, open doors for an inclusive society and development for all. Acting Director for Community Affairs, Diamond Tawivihi, highlighted the many achievements the department has seen and been able to assist with, paving the way forward for those living with disabilities. Some milestones include the development of a disabilities policy, the formation of NTAA, developments within the education sector, ensuring that infrastructure is accessible, and other areas that will enable the disabled to break the barriers and open opportunities in an all-inclusive society. As an intermission in between the different guest speakers, youngsters from Niue Early Childhood Education Centre, the Hiko Dance Troupe and Toa Niue Boys entertained the crowd in song and dance. But New Zealand High Commissioner, His Excellency Mark Wamsky, also spoke highly of the great contributions that persons with disabilities have to offer in any developments within the community. He also stated from observation the level of understanding and caring of nature of our people makes this a positive environment for people with disabilities to live in. The program also served as a reminder that in order to have an enabling and inclusive environment, there needs to be a recognition of the needs of those with disabilities, and those needs need to be realized across the board. The Niue Tolomakio Law Association acknowledged the assistance from government and other organizations in making the day a success. And that concludes our news bulletin for this evening. Don't forget to go to Niue Primary School tomorrow for their end of the year prize giving ceremony.